Welcome to the Cast Iron Strength Podcast, your go-to source for no-nonsense, straight-talking strength training and performance solutions that work. Now, introducing your host, Marc Keys.
Hello and welcome to the Cast Iron Strength Podcast. You're listening to episode 123. Today, we are going to be answering another fan mail? Can I call them fans? I don't know. Do I have fans? Write in. Let me know if you're a fan of the Cast Iron Strength Podcast website or whatever. Today, someone slid up into my Facebook DMs in the Cast Iron Strength Facebook page. They asked, "Hello Marc, quick question for you. I've recently had to take an extended break from training, about 3.5 months, and obviously as a result, my strength will no doubt have decreased considerably. I'm still very much a novice lifter with generally poor numbers, 130 kilo squat, 75 kilo bench, and 140 kilo deadlift. I was wondering if you'd recommend any programs to retrain myself to previous strength levels and perhaps beyond what they were before. Cheers." Thank you very much for your question. And as always, if you'd like me to answer any questions on the podcast, you can slide up into the DMs on Instagram. You can send me a message on Facebook, Cast Iron Strength web page. You can fire me an email, marquis, marckeys @gmail.com. And I think I've made the decision that I'm going to make this podcast twice weekly, so Tuesday and Thursday are when we're going to be dropping for the foreseeable future. I'm probably going to introduce some monologues into that. I'm going to introduce a bit of interviews into that. So it'll be a mixture of content, but twice weekly. If you want your questions answered, slide up in the DMs or send me an email. So we'll get back to the question at hand. Basically, I see this as a 3-part or maybe a 2-part question. Basically, we're going to talk a little bit around detraining and what happens when you detrain, and then we're going to talk around novice programs. What are good ones? What are not good ones? What to look out for and what to avoid when it comes to novice programs or beginner programs. So firstly, detraining. So the last thing to go when it comes to detraining. So there are rates of decay when it comes to physical attributes. The quickest thing that you will lose from a lack of training or detraining is your aerobic fitness. So a lot of you went away, let's say you went away on holiday for a week, 2 weeks, you've not really done a lot of exercise, you've certainly not done any weights, you've not done your normal program, you've basically taken a week off, 2 weeks off, which is a perfectly rational thing to do. It's something you should do on a semi-regular basis, maybe once every 6 months. You should consider taking some time off. Certainly every year there should be about 3 to 4 weeks of detraining in your program to ensure that you have a healthy lifestyle, but more so that gives your body a chance to catch up from all the stress that you're putting in through training. It lets niggles disappear. It lets you basically reset so you can start the process again from a fresh base. But basically, the first thing is going to be your aerobic fitness. So when your aerobic fitness goes, we have all experienced it when we've had a week off or maybe even 2 weeks off, and we come back to the gym and we go to do what would have been a normal session for us, and it feels fucking shit. Our recovery's gone, feels like our strength's gone, everything is just much more difficult, and panic stations, I'm fucked, I've lost all my gains, where did my progress go, I'm never taking a week off ever again. Basically what you're experiencing is your aerobic fitness dying. So believe it or not, there's actually a bit of aerobic involvement in weight training, in whatever the strength training element is. You need some kind of general underlying aerobic fitness to recover set to set, rep to rep, so that you're basically not dying after every set of 5, every set of 6. So you basically your aerobic fitness has decreased. So then it takes you 2 or 3 sessions to kind of get back up, the aerobic fitness back up. And normally, if you've been off for a week or 2 weeks, it normally takes like 2 to 5 sessions, depending, to kind of hit your stride again. Assuming that you've had total rest. So that first thing to go is the aerobic system. Next thing to go is going to be power, it's going to be your coordination, and then finally, the last thing to go is going to be your maximum strength. And your maximum strength can hang around for like months at a time. It can take up to about 8 to 12 weeks for your maximum strength to kind of detrain fully. So you're certainly out of that window. You'll pretty much return to baseline. You'll have lost whatever adaptation you had strength wise, but you won't have lost all the hypertrophy if you maintain a protein rich diet and you have a reasonably active lifestyle. Then you probably won't have atrophied a lot of it. We probably wouldn't have lost the hyperplasia that would take place. So there's two mechanisms behind a muscle getting bigger. There's hypertrophy when a satellite cell joins on the nucleus of a damaged muscle sarcomere or muscle fiber, makes it larger, increases cross-sectional area. That accounts for around 85 to 90% of hypertrophy in human or mammalian human muscles. The other kind is hyperplasia, where the satellite cell will actually create, or some satellite cells will actually create a new muscle fiber. And it is unlikely that you will have lost hyperplasia adaptation, but you probably will have lost some, if not all, of the hypertrophy that you got from the weight training that you had done previously. And you will have lost the coordination, but you won't have lost the basics of that coordination, so muscle memory. And your skill level, your coordination will have dropped, but it won't take you the same amount of time. So if you've been training for a year, it took you 6 months to get your squat to a reasonable standard of technique. It's not going to take 6 months again. It's going to take a while, maybe 2 months, 3 months, whatever it takes to get it back to that standard of execution you had before. So you're going to have muscle memory. There's going to be other adaptations that haven't gone away completely. So you're not starting from scratch basically when you're in this scenario. So yeah, so you've detrained completely. So you're not starting from scratch again. So you should be able to surpass your strength levels in a shorter time than it took you to get there. So when it comes to beginner or novices programs, there are two whales out there. Basically, you have Starting Strength by Mark Ripto, and you have the other one, which I can't remember the name of, Strongless. They're both basically the same program. They're both based off 5x5, Bill Starr's 5x5 routine. They're both basically versions of that. 3 days a week, full body routines that rely on sets of 5 sets of 5, or outcomes of that. They're focused around squat, bench, deadlift, and sometimes overhead press, bent over row, and power clean get included in some of those routines. They tend to be linear in nature, and they don't tend to have any real periodization behind them. They tend to just be a ramp program, so we just go heavier week on week, which there's nothing wrong with that for a beginner. It's as good a place to start with any, but it's not the best program out there by any means. But there's a bit of a dearth in this space. You have other programs that are better, so the Juggernaut method is probably more of an intermediate program, but it's better as it has a monthly structure. There's loading, there's deloading. It's a bit more thought that goes into the process. There's a higher volume load, and there's a bit more variety. And then you have like bodybuilding splits you can maybe look at, which have a much greater variety, may have some kind of better loading process, better thought behind the loading schemes. Lane Norton, I think, has one called I think it's Power Hypertrophy Strength or something like that. He's got a fairly high rated 3 or 4 week system bodybuilding program. Chad Waterbury, his name was fairly big in T Nation back in 2006, 2007 sort of era. He has a lot of full body routines, which are not bad. So you can have a look at them. Again, some questionable methods, some questionable ideas that he has. 531, of course, probably one of the more famous templates. When there's 531, again, has its own issues. The progression's a little bit more sophisticated. It's a 3 up, 1 down, so it's still a linear program. It's relying on AMRAPs or as many reps as possible, or rep out sets. So there's a bit of audio regulatory progression going on there, which means the progression can be a little bit faster, but it's also structured, so you're not going to hit a walls quickly. But then the total volume of that program is very low. Other programs off the top of my head you can maybe look at would be There's like some powerlifting routines out there. Cadito's got some stuff. Boroshigo's got some stuff. I've got some stuff, but for a beginner, the volume might be too high on the basic lifts. The progressions might be a wee bit too aggressive. So Ashiko has some. It's just purely the powerlifting routines you're looking at. Shiko has a lot of good novice programs out there, 2-3 day templates you can look at, although the volume's quite high on that. You're trying to look for something that's going to be in the sweet spot. You want probably more volume than starting strength, or more volume that strong lifts are going to give you, or more volume that the Jim Wendler's program is going to give you. You want a wee bit more variety than that, really. You want to be trying things like overhead squats, front squats, goblet squats, some sumo deadlifting, deadlift off different heights. You want to be exposed to different movements and different tasks, so you have a bit of a better literacy when it comes to engaging in a more robust program, or a more advanced per se, but a more nuanced program that's more targeting around your weak spots. That's maybe a bit more specific to your scenario. And I don't really know off the top of my head a lot of programs that offer that, but based on what we have, I think I'm going to produce. One of my thought processes at the minute is to produce a Your Strongest Year for a beginner lifter, because I think there's a bit of a gap there in the market. And I sent this person, actually I sent them our barbell, our Edinburgh barbell novice program, which addresses a bit of these issues. So it's got a bit more variety, it's got a bit more volume, and it has a structure behind it. It's not just a week's worth of training, which is effectively what starting strength and what strong lifts are. They're basically just a week-long template. They're not really a program. It's a microcycle that's just put more weight on this. So what they do well is they encourage they encourage compound lifts. They encourage full body training. They encourage a reasonable amount of volume. They encourage basic progressive overload, which are tenets themselves are not bad. But there's better things out there. There are better programs out there. There's better ways of doing things, and it's not 2004 anymore, where starting strength's the only opportunity, the only outlet you have. You have the ear of whoever you want. Which currently we're on the internet, so we can go anywhere. We can talk to anybody. We can retrieve information wherever we want it. So there's more sophisticated things out there, and there's better things out there. That's maybe something that I might look to address myself. But as regards where you should go, any of these programs really are going to offer a better solution than nothing. Some are going to be better than others in some respects. Some are going to fall down when compared to others in other respects. But the most important thing is to come up with a time frame or a schedule that you can absolutely commit to. So it's 2 days a week, 3 days a week, 4 days a week. Something that you can do week in, week out without fail. There's no point saying you're going to train 5 days a week and not be able to do that. You need to upskill yourself, so you need to go and check out videos online, Alan Thrall's channel, check out Jordan Training Systems channel, check out Cast Iron Strength channel, check out different information sources. Don't just look at one video on how to squat, how to deadlift, how to bench press. Look at 3 or 4 and try and pick out common threads. What's everyone saying the same things about? And these are things you need to hone in on. If you have the resources and you have the availability, I 100% would recommend getting a coach. I would 100% recommend joining a barbell club. Whatever one of these two options are available to you, they are definitely worth taking. Having someone to guide you through the first bit of training will set you up in great stead. But then there's also something to be said for finding your own way, making your own mistakes. So it just depends on what you want out of it. But there's no lack of information out there. There's no lack of resources out there. It's just finding a time frame you can commit to, and then committing to the course and just staying with it. I think is probably the most important thing. The more important thing is consistency, and just consistency. And the more knowledge you have, and the more self-reflective you are, and the better you are at applying criticism, the better you are at defining your practice, practicing deliberate practice, as we mentioned quite a bit recently on this podcast. Those are ultimately going to make the biggest difference. Consistency and deliberate practice are going to make the biggest difference on anything. And hiring a coach will just help you to encourage that deliberate practice. But if you don't have access to a coach, there's YouTube, and there are plenty of articles out there, plenty of websites, there's plenty of good text to get looking at. So hopefully this has answered your question in the normal roundabout manner that I would. Again, it's not really it's fairly straightforward. You basically just need to pick a program that's going to introduce you to the lifts that you want to train, that's going to provide you with enough volume that you're going to get stronger, provide you with enough variety that your movement's going to be good, and provide you with some kind of cyclical loading so that you don't get injured. Hope that's answered your question. And that's going to conclude this podcast. If you have any questions, as we mentioned before, you can email, you can slide up in the DM on Facebook or Instagram. Catch me online, www.castironstrength.com. Thank you very much for listening. I'll catch you in the next episode of the Online Strength Coach Podcast. Fuck's sake, that's dead. It's dead. The Cast Iron Strength Podcast. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye. Or listening, or whatever. God, I need a beer. It's 12:06 noon, and I already need alcohol. God help us all.